playing handball, but he'll be better at doing this, so let's honor Hall of Famer. And I'm sorry, we saved the best for last. Dennis Elfer and Dan Flickstein is also in the Hall of Fame. So a round of applause to them. And he is actually our next speaker, so Dan Flickstein, please come up.
I'm going to address my first comment to Willie Polanco, who's in back of the room. Okay, table number 9. Willie, remember the favor I did to you for you when you were in high school? I want you to return the favor and keep table number 9 quiet. Okay? Okay. Now, before Dory mentioned that there's a good cross-section of people, from teenagers to people of the diamond age. I'm one of the teenagers, and I thought I'd get up and say a few words. The first time that I saw Anna was in the spring of either 1979, 1980, I'm not exactly sure. I was at the courts of Coney Island, and Albert and I had just finished playing a singles game when John Jay High School showed up to play a PSAL match. For those of you who don't know, PSAL stands for Public School Athletic League. Now, at that time, the PSAL had finally wised up and had made their handball teams co-ed. They still had 3 boys singles, 2 boys doubles, but now it also had 1 girls singles and 1 girls doubles. And Anna was the girls' first singles. Now, our match was the first of the day, so Albert and I stayed to watch it. And after 4 or 5 points, the two of us were looking at each other in amazement. Who is this girl? She was just incredible. Her opponent probably didn't score a single point. A little bit later, I walked over to the coach to express my admiration for this girl, and he said, she can beat any boy on the team. Yeah. Now, a couple of years later, Albert and I wanted to run a women's tournament, but we didn't get enough entries. So we put Anna, in a B tournament, a men's B tournament, and there we had over 30 entries. I remember Anna's first game was against a fellow named Joe Valenti. I remember Joe well because he became a captain in the NYPD out in Staten Island. But he was a newcomer to handball. And still, when he came down on the Saturday to play his first match, he looks at the draw sheet, walks over to me and says, "You think I'm that bad? I have to play a girl?" And I said, "Oh, really? You better play your best against this girl." The 125-point game, Joe scored 3 points. Now, Anna's next match was not against a newcomer. Wes Cancel was a good B player. He was mainly a pink ball player, and in pink ball, he was probably an A player. But with the small, hard ball, he was a good B player. He had 2 good hands and a lot of court savvy. Now, for the first several points in that match, seeing that he was playing a girl, he took her lightly. But once he saw that he had his hands full, he started to play hard. Well, the score evened at 20. Anna serves the ball, looks short, the short linesman doesn't say a word, it's a point. Now it's 21-20. Now Wes was a quiet guy, he didn't say anything. Next serve, also looks like it's a short. And short linesman again, doesn't say a word. Now it's 22-20. At that point, Wes turns around and says to me, I was calling the game from the back, "How did you see those serves?" And in those days, there were no appeals. So I said, "Listen, that's not my business. The guy on the short line didn't call it. That means they're points." He said, "But how did you see them?" I said, "Well, okay, I saw them short." So I said, "Would you do me a favor, switch places with the short linesman?" Now, that was no easy task he gave me. The guy on the short line had an explosive temper. Some of you may remember him. His nickname was Psycho Steve. Picture me, a mild-mannered guy, walking over to Psycho Steve to ask him to change places with me because he made 2 lousy calls. Fortunately, old Psycho didn't mind, so he moved to the back, and I called the short line. The next serve, nobody had a question about it. It was a clear ace. Now it's 23-20. Next, she has a long volley with him, and from mid-court, she flat kills the ball in the right corner with her strong hand. 24-20. For the last point of the game, in typical good handball sense, serves deep to the right, rolls the ball out to the left. 25-20. Now she's in the quarterfinals. In the quarterfinals, she plays a guy who's even better than Wes Cancel. His name is Bruce Foreman. Bruce had 2 good hands, he hit hard and he ran fast. The score was 20-all in a 25-point game, and Bruce had taken all his timeouts. He was exhausted. But to his credit, he got back on the court and he made the 5 to win the game. It's always been my contention that game been a 31-point game, Anna would have won because they would have had to take Bruce to the hospital for oxygen. Now, I'm sure most of you know that by the late 80s, early 90s, Anna was totally out of handball, and she had become one of the finest women racquetball players in the country. Now, yeah, she deserves it, yeah. Now, I played 4-wall handball and some racquetball at the same club where Anna played racquetball. The Verrazano Narrows Club, I don't know if anybody remembers it. It's now the New York Sports Club. Now, I'd seen Anna play racquetball a few times, and I figured with my racquetball skills, I could play her. So I actually asked her if she'd play me singles. And her response was, first you have to beat Jason. Now, Jason was the son of the club owner. He was 9 years old. Now, the truth is, I never really played any of the good players at the club, and there were a number of good players, until finally one day, I did play against a fellow whose nickname was Benny the Butcher. Now, he wasn't called the Butcher because of what he did to people on the court, or in fact, for what he did to people off the court. That was his trade, he was a butcher. We played 3 singles games of 15 points each. The most I scored was 8. And after the match, I said to him, Benny, how did you do against Anna? And he looks at me incredulously. Me? Anna? Are you kidding? I couldn't get on the court with her. She'd kill me. So much for my thinking that I could play against Anna in racquetball. No wonder she wanted me to beat Jason first. But I did begin to think, why is it that I thought I could play against Anna? And then I realized that she only played against the very best men players of the club. First, it was Russ Menino, who was the club owner. Then Hank Grassi, who was the best player in the club. And lastly, the club pro, who was also the national racquetball singles champion, who was also a 1-wall singles champion. Anybody know his name? Ruben Gonzalez, right. Yeah. Now, many of you may not know that I'm the current 1-wall advisor for the National Handball Hall of Fame Committee. All the other people on the Handball Hall of Fame Committee are 4-wall experts, and they don't really know us at all, so they need somebody like me to tell them. I was out in Iowa this year when they took the vote on Anna. And before the vote, they asked me, why do you think Anna Calderon belongs in the Hall of Fame? Well, I gave them a simple answer. She's the best 1-wall woman handball player I've ever seen. I figured that would be enough, but no. They had a follow-up question. Why do you think she's the best 1-wall woman handball player you've ever seen? I said, okay. She hit the hardest. ran the fastest, served the best, volleyed the best, and had the best opposite of any woman I've ever seen. And at that point, one of the other members said, I saw Anna play in the 3-wall, and he, meaning me, he's right, she was that good. Now, after that, the vote was taken, and the result is, as you can see, this wonderful celebration for the first one-wall woman to be inducted into the National Handball Hall of Fame, Anna Calderon. Okay, if you'll afford me one more sentence, I hope she's not the last.